Click here to subscribe our channel and do not forget to press the bell icon to get regular updates of our videos. Hello friends, good afternoon to all of you. So I'm back with another video on Sociology optional subject for UPSC CSE mains examination. In this video we are going to talk about sociological theories of power under politics and society. So friend, please do this shares. It will really motivate me to enter this awesome course. Share as much as possible so that more and more people will get benefited. Comment and like the video and ask any doubt if you have. And now you can also follow us on every page, that is facebook.com/Unorthodox Academy. So friend, in this video we are going to start slot 5, that is politics, Western and Indian. And in this video we are going to cover sociological theories of power under politics and society of paper 1. So let's get started. So first we need to understand what is power is. So basically power is a universal phenomena in human activities and social relationship, and there is no uniform conceptualization of it. So in simple terms, power refers to the ability of a person to influence the behavior of another person or a group of persons in accordance with his or her own wish. So Tauni say that power may be defined as the capacity of individual or group of individual to modify the conduct of the other individual or group in a manner in which he desires, and to prevent his conduct being modified in the manner in which he does not. Power heralds a relationship of subordination and superordination between people. So but why are people placed unequally after all? So Hobbes says in the nature of man we find 3 causes of quarrel, that is competition, diffidence and glory. So the life of a man solitary, poor, nasty, brutish and short. So thus a need to have central authority, and this idea resounded in writings of Locke and Rousseau too. So friends, there are basically main 3 sociological theories of power. The first one being is the constant sum theory, and the constant means unchangeable, and for Karl Marx all sources of power comes from economy, and control over economy is the one and only source of power. So those who controls economy by the virtue of it, they controls the other sources of power also. But power is constant, hence its amount cannot be changed. So in the society there are always 2 groups who tries to get power, and one get always at the cost of other. Hence, one's power is the reasons for the other powerlessness. So Ralph Dahrendorf agrees with the Karl Marx, and he said that there is always 2 groups in society. One, those who have authority, and second, those who do not have authority. So those who have the authority tries to maintain it over those who do not have, and he believes the scarcity or the constant nature of authority is responsible for conflict in the all societies. So now we see the second theory, that is the variable sum theory. This theory was supported by the Talcott Parsons, and unlike constant sum theory, Parsons believed that powers come from the conformation of values. Hence, values are the sources of power. Since values are not constant, so does the power. So in any societies, values are desired behavior considered as good for the society. It is expected from its individual to conform those values, and those who better conforms, they gets powers. So during the ancient and medieval period, the security of life and property was the only value, and king was conforming those values, which was the reasons behind their powers. But as the time passed on, education, economy, religion, knowledge, entertainment, sports, etc. emerged as the new values in the society, and which given birth to the more power centers. Hence, every individual gets power from different values and not at the cost of others. So now we see the third theory, that is the elite theory. So now there is absence of uniform definition of elite, but generally they are considered as extremely powerful persons of the society. In every sector there are few people on the top who enjoys extreme power and can influence the entire sector on their will, and they can be called as the elite. So Machiavelli believes that there are 2 types of people or the persons in the city. The first one the elite, and the second were the commoners. So commoners never get the power, they always remains far from it. Power always controlled by the elites of the society, and there are two types of the elites. The first one is the lion and the second were the foxes. And lions are brave, courageous, leadership, initiator, risk-taking, lazy, and foxes are the cunning, opportunist, and he believes that power circulates between lion and foxes. So the lions get the power due to their bravery and risk-taking capabilities, but the lions have a demerit of luxury and leisure. Once the lion gets the power, with the time they gets into the luxury, and at that time the foxes takes the opportunity and grabs the power from lions. And this way power circulates between the lion to foxes and the vice versa. So Pareto in his book The Circulation of Elites identified two types of elite in the economic sector. The first one is the speculators, and these are those who takes the risk and acts on futuristic benefits. And the second one is the rentiers, and these are those who prefer not to take risk. So the economic power circulates between the rentiers and speculators and the vice versa. Then Gyanto Moscow also identified two types of elites. The first one is the governing elite and the second one is the non-governing elites. And for him, power circulates between the governing to non-governing and vice versa. C.W. Mills in his book The Power Elites studied the American power structure and concluded that though there is democracy in America and it claims to be ruled by the people, but it is ruled by the power elites. So he identified three types of elite in the American society, the first being the political elites, the second being economic elites, and the third one were the military elites. So these power elites controls the command post of America, and they do not compete with each other, rather complement each other because they have common background. For example, they all comes from the eastern part of the US. Basically, we can say the regional affiliation. Second, they are Protestant believers, and third ones they comes from the middle class backgrounds. So according to Mills, the decision of bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki was the decision of power elites and not the citizens of America. And this decisions benefited the power elites to further consolidate their position. For example, the power elites took the decisions, economic elites manufactured the bomb, and the military elites executed the decisions. So hence all the three powers elite benefited due to their decisions. And Mills concluded that though American society claims to be a democratic society, but it is ruled by the power elites. So beside this theory, there is one more theory, that is the pluralistic theory of power. And pluralistic theory argues that the political power is dispersed among the wide variety of social groups rather than elite of ruling class. And Robert Dahl belongs to this school. And Robert Dahl, an advocate of this theory, who termed rule by many as polyarchy. Then there is one new theory also, that is the new pluralistic theory, and they argued that the modern industrial state is both more complex and less responsive to the popular pressure than the classical pluralist model suggests. So new pluralists elites, especially corporate elites, as having a greater degree of influence than other groups on the government or the state policy. So now we see the instruments of power. So basically there are three instruments of power. The first being the coercive or the conditioning. The second one is the compensatory, and the third one is the conditioned power. So coercive are the ones who wins acceptance by threatening, intimidating or inflicting on others with dire consequence. Then second being the compensatory offers the individual a reward or payment sufficiently advantageous or agreeable so that he or she forgoes pursuit of his own preference to seek the reward instead. And the third being the conditions are the kind of power which is achieved by changing the attitude and belief of the individual or groups, and most crucial and pervasive kind of power to the functioning of modern society. So now we see the sources of power. So basically there are several sources or the institutions of power, and these sources or institutions of power differentiate those who wield power on others from those who submit to them. So the scholars have identified different sources of power and according to their perceptions. So for instance, Bierstedt identified three sources of power, namely the numbers of pupils, social organization and resources, and he includes various components in the third source of power such as the money, property, prestige, knowledge, competence, deceit, fraud, secrecy and natural resources. So Mann identified four sources of power, namely ideological, economic, military and political relationships. Cumin opines that there are five sources of power, namely role, specific authority, goods and services, skills and abilities, person qualities, and the coercive power. Galbraith also classifies three sources of power: personality, property, and organizations. And there are also many other scholars who classify them in many different ways. So therefore, it is difficult to follow one single classification of the sources of power, but all these classifications have more or less similar elements of the sources of power. So for our purpose we shall consider the following main sources of power, such as the personality, numbers of people, resources or the property, skills, abilities and knowledge, media, coercive forces and the organizations. So thank you guys for listening me and watching this video. Thank you.